Hey everybody, how is it going? Welcome back to the channel. In this video, I'm going to be doing an update on the Tattooed Chefaroonie, ticker symbol TTCF. I haven't done a video on the Tattooed Chef in quite a while. Man, maybe almost 2 months or so. But the Tattooed Chef has fallen just like all the other growth stocks since then, and actually we have hit the 13s as I'm making this video. I've been in the 13s before, but was actually up a couple days ago, and man, we were right back down. So I just want to revisit some of these numbers. When I was on vacation, I actually went and checked out a bunch of stores just to see the difference between the Tattooed Chef products last year and this year. So I'll talk about that in a little bit, and then I will get into their chart. And then after that, actually, I'm going to get into the trades that I made today. So make sure you stick around for that. But looking at these Tattooed Chef numbers, gosh, I think the last video I made, they were probably around $18 a share. I have an average cost right now of just over $16 a share, so I'm still in the red on the Tattooed Chef. But we can see the market cap has come all the way down to $1.14 billion. So the valuation of this company is really starting to get low. If it drops below $1 billion, I think I'm probably going to have to load up the boat. This is a relatively small position for me. I think it's about 3% of the portfolio, maybe 2.5%. But, you know, if it does fall down below $1 billion market cap, I think I'll definitely have to load the boat on some Tattooed Chef. And that could happen. I mean, there's so much momentum to the downside on some of these growth stocks that are burning cash. You know, it wouldn't surprise me one bit if that happens very soon, actually. But looking at this number right here, the short interest says it's up to 36%, and that is like super high. Normally, I don't pay attention to the short interest unless it gets to extreme levels, and I would consider that probably an extreme level. I know it's all the rage to be talking about short squeezes now, you know, with all the meme stocks that, you know, allegedly were screaming on these short squeezes. But honestly, you just don't see a whole lot of short squeezes in the market, at least not big ones. But the way that they're with 36% of the shares that are sold short, you know, this could be one of those that actually does end up having a halfway decent short squeeze potentially in the future. But who knows? But let's scroll down and take a look at some of the numbers again. We can take a look at the revenue. You can see the revenue numbers haven't changed since the last video, but still projected to keep screaming up. And these are the type of businesses that you want to position yourself in that are going to be growing revenue substantially, you know, over the next few years at least. And I expect the you know, the vegan food market, whatever you want to call it, vegetarian, to grow considerably over this decade. So these are the type of stocks you want to position yourself in. You want to get in as cheap as you possibly can, but who knows where the bottom is. That's why I just like to leg in as the stock is starting to drop. But if we scroll down to their earnings estimates, we can see that they are not expected to be earnings per share positive until 2024. But if you look at the sales, you know, they're expected to go from 213 million to 351 million by 2023. So about a 50% increase in sales coming up over the next 2 years. So that is very, very nice growth. Scroll down and take a look at the cash numbers. Take a look at the cash numbers. We can see the total debt is sitting at under $10 million, and the total cash is sitting at just under $130 billion. So they were in a very strong cash position. That's definitely what you want to see, especially in this type of environment where, you know, the cash burn companies are getting killed. When you get into an environment like this where growth stocks are really getting hammered, it becomes more difficult for them to raise money, and certainly to raise money at favorable rates. So the fact that Tattooed Chef is still sitting on a pile of cash bodes well. It gives them a very long runway to get to profitability, and they should have plenty of cash around. But looking at the ownership numbers, we can see that the institutions own 23%, corporations or private owns 4.5, and then the insiders own over 44%. And that's what I love to see. Management that puts their money where their mouth is, so they have extra incentive to make sure the company succeeds going into the future. And then you have, the public, the clowns like me that own about 27% of the company. So I would like to see institutions be a little bit higher than this, but I think that's going to come into the future. But this number right here more than makes up for, I would say, lower institutional ownership. I mean, 23% is still a decent chunk, but just looking at these numbers on the Tattooed Chef, I mean, I think that they all still look fantastic, and I'm still a buyer of the stock. I'm nibbling here, but if it really starts to accelerate to the downside, which could happen, it seems like the market it's kind of on thin ice right now, and it only takes like some really bad news to probably send the market down like a quick 10%. If that does happen, I'll be buying a little bit heavier. Now, when I was on vacation a few weeks ago out west, I went and I checked out a few of the stores where the Tattooed Chef products are sold. When I'm on vacation, I like to try to check in on some of the stores or the products of the companies that I am invested in. I live out in the middle of nowhere in Pennsylvania, so it takes me at least a half an hour to get to a decent store, so it's pretty hard for me to do any kind of product research. So try to knock out some of that when I'm on a vacation. I go out west at least once a year, and of course I went out to the grocery stores to check out how the Tattooed Chef products were selling, and I got to tell you, it looked like that they were selling very, very well. And one thing I was also surprised about was the number of SKUs since last year. It seems like there's a lot more of their products on the store shelves. We tried the cauliflower pizza bowl. You can never get that around here. There's a Target quite a ways from my house in Pennsylvania, but these things are never there. They're always sold out. I bought some of these for my kids, and they really like them. I don't know if you pronounce that acai bowl or whatever, but my kids really like them, and we're not vegans. We're not vegetarians at all. So I thought they all tasted pretty decent. I haven't tried any of these three yet. I did try the cauliflower pizza, and I'm not a big cauliflower fan. My wife is, but it was pretty decent. One thing that I was surprised about with this pizza is, I'm not big on frozen pizza, and it seemed like it had been forever since I had had any. Way back in the day, we used to get them all the time, but I was surprised how reasonably priced their pizza is compared to some of those other products that I used to buy, way back when, because I used to grab some of those frozen pizzas because they were cheap. It was a cheap meal that we could have when we weren't making all that much money, but I was surprised at just how reasonably priced it is. I mean, you don't have to pay a whole heck of a lot more if you want, this type of option. And I don't know, I was just pleasantly surprised on how many of the SKUs were in the stores. And in fact, I even went to a Sam's Club, and when I come around the corner, the Tattooed Chef, whatever the shelf or whatever, where all the food was, it was completely full. And I was like, man, I guess it's not a big seller here. And then I went around the next corner, and there was a young guy stocking shelves, and I just stopped to ask. It was the only person I talked to that worked at a store about these products, and I was like, do those Tattooed Chef products sell very well at all? And he was like, he looked like he was annoyed at how often he had to stock the shelves, compared to some of the other ones. But, that's a good sign if you're an investor. So, I mean, everything that I saw when I went out west just made me even, more encouraged as a shareholder, because it looks like, these things are pretty good sellers so far. And I would expect, vegan, vegetarian food to be big sellers, and, it'll be just a growing market for this entire decade and beyond. So if Tattooed Chef falls any further, I'm probably going to be buying a heck of a lot more, because I like what I see so far. All right, so now let's get into the chart of the Tattooed Chef, and then I'll get into the trades that I made today. Some are good, some are bad, but I'll get into that. Before I get into this, please remember, I'm not a financial advisor. All this is just my opinion for entertainment purposes only. Please make all of your own trading decisions. Now, with all that being said, I do have a Patreon, so if you'd like to join our small trading group, we are talking in the Discord on a daily basis. The link is down there in the description. It's only $10 a month. And also, if you don't mind liking the smash button, I really appreciate that. That helps out the channel. But let's get into this chart for the Tattooed Chef. As we can see, we are continuing to fall lower. My last video was probably up over $16 a share, and now we are down below $14 a share. I actually have an order in right now to buy some more if it falls down to $13.76. If the price stays below 14 and maybe hangs a little bit above it, I might raise it up and grab some more shares. I mean, but by looking at this chart, you know, it's really hard to tell right here. You know, just by looking how it is forming this little consolidation, I would guess it's probably going to roll over. But, you know, if you zoom in a little bit, you can see all of these bottoming tails. And these usually come in when a stock is about ready to make a bounce. You know, it starts to sell off all these days and buyers step in and push the price back up. And that's why it forms all of these little tails here. So we're going to have to see if the Tattooed Chef ends up bouncing at this level or not. Now, I know what some of you are probably thinking, like if I have an idea that it might fall from here, why would I buy some more today? And the reason is I don't know where the stock is going to bottom at. All I do know is probably in a few years, the stock is probably going to be in the 20s, maybe 30s or 40s. So I don't want to pass up an opportunity to buy any in the teens. And, you know, if this thing does end up bottoming and starting to take off, you know, I'm not the type of person that chases a stock as it's going up. I like it when it's fading down so I can build out a position. I don't know why I'm like that. I guess I'm just cheap. I like to buy stuff when it's on sale, but I think the Tattooed Chef is probably going to see some more downward pressure in the short term. And if this thing, like I said, falls below a $1 billion market cap, I'm probably going to be buying a little bit heavier. I've just been kind of nibbling on the way down, building out my position. But, man, unfortunately for the short term, I'm thinking that we're probably going to be in for a little bit more pain. All right, so let's get into my trades for the day. The first one I want to get into is day trades that I made on SOFI today. SOFI was gapping up, and me and Studio from the Patreon were talking about it, and you know, I told him that I probably wouldn't take a trade in SOFI because it looked so ugly on the chart. You know, it was going to be gapping up into this resistance area. Plus, you got that 21-period exponential moving average in the way. I just thought the chart was too ugly because, you know, I want to be trading a chart that has a higher probability of, you know, going my direction. I want as few ceilings above it as possible. And SOFI just didn't seem like one of those candidates, but for whatever reason, I decided to take some trades in SOFI anyway. So let's go over the first one. Let's go to the minute chart. Let me back it out here. This was the first trade that I made. I made it at 9:42. I bought right here. And I was stopped out right here. So after taking this trade, I felt like an imbecile. You know, it happens to all of us. I was thinking to myself, you know, you said before the day started you weren't going to take a trade in this stock because, you know, there was just too much overhead resistance. And you went ahead and did it anyway. But the reason why I did it, you know, the stock was pulling down. I found a little bit of support at that 8-period exponential moving average on the 1-minute chart. And normally I also don't like to trade the minute chart because there's just more false signals, I'm assuming, just because it's a lower time frame. But it looked like it was breaking this ceiling right here, so I thought it was probably going to hook up and maybe make a new high, but that is not what happened. As soon as it stopped me in, turned right back around. Once it broke that moving average, I wanted out of it because it wasn't going my way. But I took another trade in SOFI a little bit later, which is unusual. I usually don't take 2 trades in the same day on the same stock. I bought in at 11:50, so it's going to be right here. I was looking at this ceiling. Let me see here. 11:50. I bought in at 13.76. So it was this ceiling right here I was watching. We had this little saucer pattern that SOFI was making. It was going sideways for the longest time. So I went and looked at the you know, the ceiling with the most resistance, and you can see there was resistance here, obviously, and then there was also this resistance right here. So I put in my order to buy some once it broke 13.76. And this one took forever. I ended up getting out at $14.30. So I ended up getting at, let me see here, $14.30 at 135. So geez, man, this thing did take forever. Let me see if I can get this thing to work. And of course, my mouse is froze, you son of a... Come on, you piece of garbage. There we go. So it was at 135. So 135 would be right about here. So ended up taking my profit right about here. So I was in this thing for about an hour and 40 minutes. It felt like forever. You know, I got stopped in here. I placed my stop down around here. And as the stock was moving up, I was slowly raising my stop up, and it just kept going up a little bit, and then it would pull down. I had my order at $14.28. It got right up there to it, and then it turned around, so I kept raising my stop, raising my stop, raising my stop. Then it finally did blast back up. I put my order back in for $14.30, and it was executed. It made it all the way up to about $14.38 before it rolled over a little bit, but it looks like it's starting to run up again as the day is going. But those were the two trades that I made in SOFI. I think one of the reasons I held on so long, it was sort of a revenge trade. If this was my first trade in SOFI, I probably would have took profit on this run up right here, right below probably 415. But since I lost money here, I wanted to make it all back, and then also a little bit more so I could show a profit for the day in my day trading, which that is not the way to trade. So as far as I'm concerned, I got really lucky on this second trade. But you know, I mean, I was trying to protect my profit as the stock was running up. I was, you know, raising up my stop loss the whole way. So I mean, if it would have rolled over, it would have stopped me out, and you know, the loss or the gain would have been a little bit smaller. But fortunately, I was able to stay in this one long enough to make up everything I lost on that first trade and then some. But let's go back to the daily chart, and let's get into the other one that wasn't so good, and that was on my swing trade that I made on CBSH. I was actually stopped out today. If you watched my video from a few days ago, you saw that I bought on this breakout right here. Now, the banks and energy were doing super well. They were two of the strongest sectors out there by far, and you know, since I bought into the stock, JP Morgan and Goldman Sachs, I think came out with some poor earnings that put some pressure on the banking sector, and unfortunately this breakout failed, and I got stopped out at $71.01, so about a 3.5% loss. Not the end of the world, but you know, I am really hesitant to be taking swing trades in this type of market because it just seems like every breakout is failing. So I didn't take a big position in CBSH, but I wanted to participate in some of these banking stocks because they look like they were all, you know, potentially going to be running for at least a few more days. But that did not happen with CBSH because I imagine because all those earnings came out. But another stock that I'm still in on a swing trade is Occidental Petroleum. I sold off part of my position at 35.25, but the rest of it is still moving up. Energy is still pretty strong, so probably going to hold on to Occidental just a little bit longer. But those were my trades for today. Well, that's all I have for this one, everybody. If you have any questions, please leave them for me down there in the comment section. I'll get to them as soon as I can. Thank you so much for watching my video all the way to the end, and until next time, take care, everybody.